The next directory we can look at, if we type ls here, is we find we have media. Media is, if you plug in a USB drive to your Linux Mint, it's going to be presented here. If I cd into media, and I don't have anything plugged in, if I did, it would show up here. I would see that there as being present. And let's clear my screen. Let's get a little bit more real estate here. Where am I at? PWD. I'm there at the root directory. So the next one, ls, is mount, MNT. So a mount is a way you can like temporary mount an additional file system, like perhaps another drive. You could mount another drive this way. So the command is cd into mnt enter, and we don't have any listed, but if we did, we could mount that drive there, such as like another disk, like another. You could even say a CD-ROM, like an additional CD-ROM you could plug in. If it's mounted, you can mount it that way. CD enter or CD slash. Let's go back to our root again. Clear the screen. ls. We're going to type out opt. Opt is sometimes in Commvault, it's a backup software. They're going to install opt there. CD opt enter. And these are like the directory files. For instance, these are could be like add-ons, could be software packages that you install, such as Commvault, such as OBS, such as other type of files like that you could install here. Now, these are always most likely going to be in the opt folder. So it's a directory that all of the software is being placed. So this is very important. This is a very important file structure here. Very important directory that is used for troubleshooting, to understand where items are installed, and all of the rest for that. Another important directory is the proc. ls, let's find out where we are. PWD, ls, that is the proc, P-R-O-C. You could call it process, basically. You could say it's a process as well. So we type in cd proc, P-R-O-C, enter. We type ls, what happens? So when I type ls, this contains special files that they relay information to the kernel, to and from the kernel. So it's basically a visual representation within the directory that represents the current state of the kernel meaning the Linux kernel. It's a little different than the binary and text files because most visual files are listed as 0 bytes. So in the size and the timestamp that you notice here, timestamp, and basically it notes when it's going to change a lot actually. If you can, we can see it a little bit. Sometimes it's going to change. So these are essentially these are they reflect the information again from the kernel to the Linux Mint server. The next directory to look at is called our proc, which is our process, P-R-O-C here, right here, P-R-O-C. cd into B-R-O-C, enter, ls. So what exactly is this stuff here that you're looking at when you say it? What is that exactly? So this basically is you could call it relay information, you could call it back and forth information from the kernel to the operating system, or basically to the files essentially. So these represent like the current state of the kernel. Basically, it's a little different than your binary and text files. So most of the files here they have like a binary number, like a date and time. And the reason this is so important is because when you're troubleshooting any type of kernel issues or any type of really issues on your server, and if you really deep dive into this Linux Mint on how it works and all that, you're going to really understand how this directory works as a whole. The next directory is probably my favorite actually. It's the root directory. So first is ls, see where we are. So the root directory, root, R-O-O-T, okay, cd R-O-O-T, ls. So you notice here you have a little tilde basically here, ls. You don't notice anything in there at all, actually. You don't notice any files in there. The next directory to look at is root. Root's the home directory of the account super user. So this would be like root or whoever the super user is. And usually the regular users can't access this directory actually here. The next one down from that is run. So the run directory contains like for better lack of word, transient files that require certain applications to run, and they have like your process IDs that contain your process IDs. The next one is your SBIN. We talked about this a little bit earlier, but this contains executable system programs that are used by the root user in the Linux, the Linux kernel when the system is booting up and performing such as system recovery tasks. Also like the the clock of the actual Linux Mint server, the system time. This is similar to that in your C drive, so your Windows device, your Windows computer, would be similar to that of Windows system file, be the SBIN file or directory, excuse me. The next one you have is your SRV. This is contains files to supply data for services provided by the Linux Mint server. Then you have your sys files, SYS. This is basically a virtual file system that stores the kernel's view of the system and the device connected to the system. You have a temp folder, so this is TMP here, TMP, that contains the temporary files that have been created by a running program, such as maybe something like OBS, for instance. It would create a temp file, and it would be listed here. This would be very similar to, almost the same as, say, your C Windows temp folder. This would be the same exact thing here. Next, you have the USR folder. USR folder. This is it contains subdirectory information storing programs that could be used by any user on the system. For instance, like a game, processor, word processor, media player, OBS, file system. This is the same thing as in Windows as your C program files directory. And then you have the var. So the var, that's a variable data. That's one of the other important ones actually in the Linux Mint directories. This stores information about ongoing system statuses, particular logs of security, system activity, the system administration root user can type more var log. So you have, like, for instance, your var log here. Let's actually go into it. cd var enter ls. So we have our logs here. So if we want to go and we want to look at our messages for our computer. So for instance, these would be like log files. So we just type in /var /log log okay, and we type in messages, messages. Okay, let me actually put a better command in, more /var /log /messages. The last one is our var. This are variable data files. This stores information about ongoing system status, particular logs of system activity, such as security. This is similar to that of the Windows system tools or system event logs, event viewer. That's be similar to that. What people usually do is they go in, say, I don't have any logs on this, so I'll just kind of simulate it. cd var. So I'll type in maybe ls. So then I'll say, okay, tail. I might use tail, TAIL -log. Or I might actually go in, I'll say cd log. cd log. Are there any files? Okay, so we have a lot of logs here. We have several logs here. So I might start by maybe saying the syslogs or the Ubuntu VMware network log or dpkg log. Let's do that one. So I want to do tail, or we could just do maybe var tail, T-A-I-L, space dash, and then let's actually type the something log, dpkg log. So this is going to, if we have any information, any active information about this log, it's going to display here. Let's choose another one. Let's choose, say, tail dash, and then let's say the VMware log, any log, let's say network log. There you go. So I'm tailing the network log. Basically, if anything shows up here, it's going to I'm going to be able to display it real time. If you wanted to type in more information, so more, let's do more, and say var log messages log, and let's name a log. Let's give a log. Say, let's do VMware, same one. More var log, and then we'll type, let's say D. We typed that one on before. DP. Okay. So this is information here about that log itself. So it has all the information about that log, almost real time basically. If you push spacebar, you're going to see all of this information here listed on what's going on with that log file. You use this to troubleshoot issues, troubleshoot problems that you're going to have in the Linux Mint computer. And to break out of this, you push Control C, and you're back at your where you started. So if you go back and you go CD/, you're back to your home screen. CD clear, and we're back to where we were at, ls. Creating files, creating folders in your Linux Mint computer. So a couple different options. You can go either via the command line, which you can do. You can say, we'll go into the directory. We'll go CD. We'll go CD home directory, ls. The Linux Mint, CD into Linux Mint course, ls. And we can make a directory. So we're going to make a directory or make a folder essentially. So the command for that is mkdir, just make directory, and we're going to name it test. And then we do ls. We're going to see that we have the directory, subdirectory if you will, called test, or folder structure called test. If we go over here to our Windows menu, we click on the file system, file. We notice in our Linux Mint, then we have our file called, or folder called test, T-E-S-T. So in order to maybe add something to that, we could double click on it. We could right click, and we can click on properties because we can't add anything to it now for some reason. So what we could do is we could go to our menu, go to say a text file, text editor, put some data in, wherever that data is, save it, or save as. We're going to choose our location, test, and click on save. So you're going to get the error that's going to say cannot save to the file system, test unsaved document 1. You do not have the permission necessary to save to the file. Please check that you type the location correctly and try again. What exactly does that mean? The reason you had that error is because you created it as a super user and you're not logged in as a super user. That's the issue. I'll show you what I mean. I'm logged in now, just a regular non-super user as me, as a Linux Mint course. That's what I'm logged in as. And I'm going to click on ls. So I have my file structure called test here. So I want to create a directory. I'm going to create a file system. So I type mkdir, and then this time it's going to be a little bit different. I'm going to do uppercase T, enter. So now I have the file structure there listed. So here it is. You have test and you have test again. So this time if I double click on test, right click, you can see that I have the capability of creating something new, creating a new folder inside whatever that folder is. However, if you click on the test that I would create as a super user, you'll notice that I don't have any option to do anything. So if I want to test this even better, my menu followed by text editor, put in some data, whatever that data is, doesn't matter, file, save as. This time I'm going to select the folder I created as a regular user, not a super user. Double click on that and then save. And I don't have any errors here listed. So if I click on the folder structure test, I'll see that I have that file listed. So that's the reason why you have two different things going on here. You have you have the super user, you're logged in super user. Anytime you create anything as a super user, only the super user can access that file. Anytime you create anything as a regular user, both the regular user and the super user can access that file. The difference between Windows desktop and Linux Mint in that particular setting, is that you can right click on the actual folder and you can either do permissions, so you can edit the who accesses the permissions, who accesses the folder itself. Close this screen here. Who accesses permissions, such as folder access, who can create it, read only, the owner is access files. So the owner would be this individual here with the Linux Mint, Linux course, Linux Mint. So the file access could be either read only or read and write. The group, you could give the group permissions as well, either read only, none, or read and write. And the folder access, you can access the files, list file only, create and delete files. And you can give them either read and write, none, or read only permissions. You can share the file, share the folder out with other computers across the network. And you can also change the color of the folder. So if you right click on it and you go to say color, let's say blue for instance, you'll see that it's changed the color. If I right click on the folder and I click on properties, you'll see that the size, you'll notice the size of the actual folder. Similar to that of Windows. You'll see the directory where the location is and when it was last modified. If you wanted to delete these files, you would just click on them, right click, and then move to trash. It's going to move those files to trash. Conversely, if you create a text file of some sort and you want to put a shortcut to it, you click on the text file, you go to edit, and then you click on make link. That's going to have a link to that file. So if you move this, you can drag it over to your desktop. So if you double click on it, it's not the actual file, but it's just the shortcut to the file itself. If you have several files and you want to find a file, you know the name, but you're not sure where exactly it's at, on the top right hand side you have the toggle location entry, and then you have the search documents and folders. You click on the search documents folders, and you can type the name of the file. Perhaps in this case it's Dubai. You push enter, and it's going to find that file name. Wherever the file name is, the location and the data was modified. for easy access to that file. You'll get a file sometimes, maybe a media file or a video, or in this case a text file, and you're unsure what to open it. Perhaps it doesn't open with the program you have. In order to open that, similar to that of Windows, you right click on it and you can either open with the text editor or you can open with a built-in program such as LibreOffice Writer. And this works with pretty much any type of file system that you have. Windows Word documents, PowerPoint documents. You can open with LibreOffice in any type of Linux Mint, or you can download the LibreOffice program.